your words and your actions, what the answer is. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may say.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's
about
just
your
a
record
flippant
and what you
statement,
stand
Mr.
for.
Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask a
Senator,
question.
please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and woefully used, I might add.
Well-
Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman-
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I raised
don't regret
Sudan, Mr.
psychosocial support services.
I
for
raised
USAID.
Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I
not
respond, Mr.
Mozambique.
Chairman, or do I?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose to
railing on-
use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend
time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come,
Mr.
you're
Chairman,
going to see who you went to
look,
defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court in the
Senator-
United States because
Well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I have under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation under our division of powers in this country and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ostork did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she
And if you
did?
do
Come
that-
on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single
You're
one of
just
these
blowing
cases, the
smoke
factors
here
are
now.
different.
Senator-
The bottom line is, if you're
Senator,
coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you
Does
have
the
a
First
visa
Amendment
and we find
apply
you,
to
we'll
people
revoke
living
it.
in the United
And
States?
we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk
Writing
through a
an
bunch of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
Tufts
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy
that.
of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the other
Secretary.
day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke
I
it.
feel so much safer
All right,
when you lock
let's,
up people like Ms. Ostork, Mr. Secretary.
We've had
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So, look, I'm going to tell it straight from right off the top. Like, when Marco Rubio was announced he was going to be the Secretary of State, I was a bit apprehensive. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm like, oh, here we go. We got another freaking rhino. I'm like, sure, I like some of the stuff he says, but, all senators say stuff we like from time to time. But it's like, he's a senator, for goodness sakes. That's like rhino incarnate right there. But as he has come into the position and come into his own, in my opinion, I'm not going to lie about that. He has been doing such a spectacular job, and with just outright smashing the delusions of these leftists, right? Senator Van Hollen is the guy that took a trip on your dime to El Salvador to go have coffee, have a margarita or whatever the hell it was, with a damn MS-13 gang member, right? These people are losing their minds over Abrego Garcia. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a human trafficker and an MS-13 gang member, criminal alien. They're losing their minds over this guy. Once again, folks, like I said, like several weeks ago, this story isn't going to go away. It's going to stay around for a while. Democrats are going to keep on drudging this thing up, and they're going to be like, oh, look, we got tyranny over here, blah. And it's like, what are you talking about? We're getting rid of terrorists. We're getting rid of criminal aliens. We're doing our job. We're enforcing the laws. Unlike the Biden administration, right? And, you know, that is not even to speak of the fallout. I haven't even really spoken about the fallout from the Biden administration. You got Jake Tapper's book has just recently come out, and holy crap. Like, I saw somebody, they were doing a podcast and going over some excerpts from that book, and it's like, really, my guy? Like, well, I might get into it one day. Y'all let me know down in the comments if y'all want me to get into that. We'll go over like a news article or something like that. I'm not going to read the book. I'm not going to waste my time or money to read that damn book. It's ridiculous. But, you know, you can go find news articles where they take excerpts from it. You know, somebody does the dirty work. They take one for the team, if you will, and they go through and read the book. But it's fascinating to me. All these journalists are coming out talking about, we missed it, y'all. Oh, we just didn't see it. Like, what? What do you mean didn't see it? It was on display for everybody. And look, speaking of Joe Biden, right, getting off of Marco Rubio and that whole nonsense, that was great, by the way. Like, that whole interaction was great. You know, Senator Van Hollen spent his whole time lambasting Marco Rubio, spreading lies, conspiracy theories, and misinformation. That's all it pretty much was. It's just nonsense, right? Taking a fact and then building a worldview around that, but getting away from that, right? My normal Lawrence O'Donnell video just so happened to not pop up this morning for some reason. It normally does first thing in the morning. I usually see the video from the night before. So I was like, let me go see if, you know, for some reason why it's not there. Well, they had the audio only. So I listened to that. So I have a clip. Check this out, y'all. It's short, by the way.
Joe Biden was better at the job of the presidency than every member of the Trump administration combined, very much including Donald Trump. Joe Biden has never said one thing as outright stupid and factually incorrect as what Donald Trump says every single day about almost everything.
Are you sure about that, Lawrence?
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts. Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? Because that's America. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to What must be what? I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. Let me start off with two words. Made in America.
Lawrence O'Donnell has got to be one of the most delusional people I think I've ever seen. How does this guy get paid to get in front of a television camera and spit out some of the most nonsensical drivel you've ever heard in your entire life? Like, how does he get paid to do that? I don't understand how that works. Like, really, like, you can't even take some aspects of reality and incorporate that into your worldview. Everything about what you say has to be delusional nonsense. Like, I'm serious about that. Lawrence O'Donnell is just so fascinating because it's nothing but just nonsensical drivel just coming out of his mouth non-stop, it seems like. But I do have some news, so let's get into some news. Speaking of the news, I'm going to read the headline right quick. Check this out, y'all. Trump alleges genocide in South Africa. White Afrikaner farmers reject that. Oh, is that so? Look, I don't understand this obsession with the corporate press to try to debunk reality. This is what they do. This is what this whole article is about. Trying to debunk reality. What they do is they take facts and they phrase their way around reality to make you disbelieve the truth. Right? We've covered this whole South Afrikaner situation, right? We seen the video of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters. the very, very racist political party that's in South Africa that has a song that their Supreme Court allowed them to go around chanting constantly that it's pretty much just kill the Boer, which is pretty much kill the white farmer. Right? Well, I'm sorry. Look, call it speech. You want to go there? Call it speech. You can call it speech. However, when you combine that with the actual violent crime that is in South Africa, yeah, that tells a very different story of what's actually going on here, right? Some people might be actually scared about that, but you have the corporate press. They're constantly trying to debunk reality. And like I said, be ready, because they're going to try to phrase their way around reality here. Let's get into it, y'all. Days before South Africa's president meets with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House, Afrikaner farmers at the center of an extraordinary new U.S. refugee policy roamed a memorial to farm attacks in their country's agricultural heartland, some touching the names of the dead, both black and white. What are they even talking about here? An extraordinary new U.S. refugee policy? What do you mean by that, Associated Press? Because, yeah, I would say it's nothing new. Joe Biden spent his entire tenure as president bringing in refugees and asylum seekers by the millions. And now Donald Trump brings in 59 after shutting the program down almost outright, pretty much slowing it to a crawl. He brings in 59 people, and all of a sudden it's some new extraordinary refugee program. Like, I just don't understand what they're trying to get at here. I think what they're trying to set this up as Donald Trump is only taking in white refugees. I mean, think what you want, but I mean, I don't know what they're trying to do exactly, because I don't understand why that makes any sense. New extraordinary refugee. Like, you know, I wish I could delve into the mind of some of these writers for the AP. That would be fascinating. That would be a fascinating journey, that's for sure. Here in Bothaville, or Bothaville, whatever you want to call it, where thousands of farmers gathered for a lively agricultural fair with everything from grains to guns on display. Even some conservative white Afrikaner groups denied the Trump administration's genocide and land seizures claims that led it to cut off financial aid to South Africa. Okay, so what do we have here? So the AP obviously went to Africa, South Africa, and went to this festival or whatever, this agricultural festival or whatever, and talked to some people, and they said no, none of that is happening. So they're denying reality right off the top. Okay, so genocide, we'll call it that. So what's the definition of a genocide? Just to be clear, let's go ahead and read this out right quick, because that was an accusation levied. So let's go ahead and see exactly what a genocide is, as if we don't already know, but just, you know, for the sake of the argument. Genocide, as defined by international law, refers to acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. These acts can include killing members of the group, causing serious bodily harm or mental harm, and inflicting condition of life calculated to bring about the group's destruction. Right? So, once again, to bring about the group's destruction in whole or in part. There you go, folks. Fascinating, don't you think? Let's keep going, though. The late President Nelson Mandela, South Africa's first black leader, stood in Bothaville over a quarter century ago and acknowledged the increasing number of violent attacks on farmers in the first years following the decades-long racial segregation system of apartheid. But the complex problem of crime on our farms, as elsewhere, demands long-term solutions, he said. So, once again, they're outright admitting that this is going on right there, just that. That was Nelson Mandela admitting to this. as a matter of fact. Some at the agricultural fair said fleeing the country isn't one of them. Okay, so there you go. I really hope that during the upcoming visit to Washington, President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to be able to put the facts before his counterpart and to demonstrate that there is no mass expropriation of land taking place in South Africa and there is no genocide taking place. John Steenhuisen, Minister of Agriculture, told the Associated Press he will be part of the delegation for Wednesday's meeting. Now, what they're trying to do right here is, this is what I say when they're trying to phrase their way around reality. Oh, there is no mass expropriation. Nobody ever said there was mass expropriation, right? Now we're going to argue over the definition of genocide, right? So, in part or in whole, trying to destroy because they're white. Once again, you go back to those videos of these people, you look at the crime statistics here, then you look at Nelson Mandela's own statements of saying they are attacking the farmers. You ask anybody from South Africa, any white people from South Africa, they'll tell you that, yeah, there's it's on the brink of genocide going on over there, right? It's bad when you have these groups, when you have the Supreme Court allowing these groups to chant, kill this certain group. That's insane, if you ask me. That is a call to violence, right? That is speech that would not be allowed in the United States. That would definitely not be allowed in the United States. I'm sorry, anybody, the free speech absolutists, look, we are not the bastion of free speech. Everybody, right? It's not about being a free speech absolutist or about your principles or anything like that, right? Like in America, it's always been about what is your moral wall that you run into? Where is that line that you draw where we're not going to allow this anymore? You know, they say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but that's not true. That's absolutely not true. You can yell fire in a crowded theater. Now, if there happens to be a mass stampede and people get hurt due to you yelling fire in a crowded theater, then that falls upon you. But you can most certainly do it. If nobody takes you seriously, nothing is going to happen. It's all about how these laws are applied, and are they applied equally all the way across the board, folks? That's what this is all about. And it seems like when you have a country that is making the laws to strip the property rights from people, for goodness sakes, and then you have this other political party with the leader of that political party is chanting, kill the Bora, or whatever it is. I think it's Bora or something like that. Right? I've only heard it from those videos, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they're saying sometimes. So they're basically chanting, kill the white farmer over here. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? Do you think people aren't going to go out and do this? Like, once again, folks, you know, they tried to say, oh, well, it's just violent crime. We just have high crime statistics. That's all it is. It's not a genocide. It's just our normal crime. You just don't look over here. Like, that's what they try to argue. It's not a genocide. It's just regular, average, everyday crime. Sure. Let's keep going, though. The minority white Afrikaner community is in the spotlight after the U.S. granted refugee status to at least 49 Afrikaners claiming to flee racial and violent persecution and widespread seizures of white-owned land, despite evidence that such claims are untrue. That is right. Those claims are untrue because they are taking land, maybe not on a widespread scale, not from everybody all at once, which is what they are saying. But they are taking land from some people. And they are, you know, there are a lot of murders to farmers in the country. So once again, folks, you got one group over here claiming we're being persecuted. The other side that's doing the persecuting is saying that's not happening at all. And what I find mind-boggling is the corporate press is getting on the side of the persecutors that are saying that it's not happening at all. And they're like, yeah, it's not happening at all. That's fascinating, don't you think? But once again, folks, they going through and giving you all the facts. You put the facts together. You gotta piece it out from here and there, but you put all these facts together, and it's like, hang on just a second. But we'll get into that. While many at the agricultural fair raised serious concerns about the safety of farmers and farm workers, I thought there was nothing going on. Why would they raise serious concerns? Others were quick to point out that crime targeted both black and white farmers and farm workers, as shown by South Africa's crime statistics. See what I mean by they're trying to phrase their way around the truth? Oh, well, it's just standard crime, y'all. Like, are you kidding me? Like, exactly, this is the point. They're fleeing the crime. They're fleeing the persecution. For goodness sakes. It is rising to the level of genocide, right? Maybe they were a little quick to call it a genocide. But given the crime statistics, let's say you knock their crime statistics down to an average, then hang on just a second. All these murders of farmers, would it rise to a genocide at that point? Ignoring the regular crime not on farmers. That's all I'm saying. This stuff doesn't exist in a vacuum, folks. Once again. But at the same time, you can delineate between regular crime and targeted crime, for goodness sakes. Thobani Tonga, a black farmer from eastern Cape Providence, told the AP he had been attacked on his farm by criminals and almost kidnapped, but a black neighbor intervened. So, once again, folks, this is what blows my mind. So, now that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get, here was a black farmer that was targeted as well. See, it's not just persecution against the whites. This is the Associated Press doing this. You see how this is all framed up. By the way, this is what our news outlets have become, folks. They are just propaganda outlets at this point. This is insane. Crime affects both black and white. Of course it does. Nobody's stating the otherwise. It's an issue of vulnerability, he said. Farmers are separated from your general public. Duh, we're not near towns. We are all in the rural areas. And I think it's exactly that. So perpetrators, they thrive on that, on the fact that farms are isolated. Thank you for proving my point, my guy. White farmers echoed his thoughts and called for more resources and policing, but said there wasn't any genocide that would make them flee South Africa. Once again, folks, they can make all the statements they want. And once again, it's just so fascinating. You can take somebody who hasn't been affected by this and pick them out of the crop over here, you know, pun intended, of course, pick them out of the crop and say, you know, hey, is there a genocide going on? And maybe they don't pay attention to the news. Maybe they're just an average guy who hasn't been targeted yet. But what about the people that have been targeted? What about these 49 people that fled? Do you think they wanted to give up their farms and come to the United States to start over, for goodness sakes? Like, this blows my mind. Why can't the AP just cover the news and give us the facts, instead of going and get specific anecdotes from over here and anecdotes from over there, and then structuring the article in such a way to make it seem like, oh, well, there's no genocide and these claims are bogus, they're nonsense, that they shouldn't have fled at all. That's what they're doing, folks. They're not giving you the news. Crime especially hits small-scale farmers worse because they don't have resources for private security, said Afrikaner farmer William de Chavons Vert. I don't know. That's a weird name. Sorry, my guy. If I pronounced your name wrong, I know I did, but I'm sorry. He and other farmers wondered why they would leave the land where they had been rooted for decades. Yeah, you wonder why. Like, once again, you wonder why. Do you think they wanted to leave? That's all you got to ask yourself. Do you think they just wanted to leave and come over with nothing and start over in the United States? Maybe they did. Maybe they were tired of being persecuted. Maybe they were scared of getting robbed or killed or kidnapped because of the high crime. Maybe they saw a bunch of white folks getting targeted and said, yep, not me, and left. I'm just saying. We are not interested in going anywhere, he added. The thing we want to do is be part of this country. Ramaphosa, himself a cattle farmer, also visited the agricultural fair for the first time in about 20 years to buy equipment, but also do outreach as many in South Africa puzzle over the Trump administration's focus on their country. We must not run away from our problems, the president said during his visit. When you run away, you're a coward. So now he's calling these people coward. So he allows for all this crime to go on, people to be targeted, crime to rise to genocidal levels, for goodness sakes. And then he calls these people cowards for running away, for fleeing, for wanting a better life, for goodness sakes. That is insane. That's a psychotic president right there for allowing all this to take place. Right? These countries, I'm sorry, look, they could crack down on crime like never before. Look what El Salvador did, for goodness sakes. That guy right there, he could round up his troops, go out into the world, capture criminals, put criminals in jail, make your country safe. But it's a choice, folks. They choose not to do that. They don't care about their citizens at all. At all. That's what I say about that, because you can choose to take actions, or you can choose to allow a bad situation to fester and get even worse. And that appears to be what is happening in South Africa. Why would anybody in their right mind want to stay around for that? Especially when white people are being targeted, when farmers specifically are being targeted, regardless if they're white or black. Doesn't matter. And once again, folks, this isn't about a white genocide, by the way. It's a farmer genocide, for goodness sakes. It doesn't matter if they're white or black. Like I said, that's what Trump also said. Doesn't matter if they're white, doesn't matter if they're black or gray or green or purple or pink or fuchsia or whatever color, turquoise, for goodness sakes. Does not matter. The farmers are being targeted. The farmers are being persecuted. The reason doesn't matter. Right? It really doesn't matter the reason. They are being targeted. They are being murdered. And it is rising to the level of a genocide, for goodness sakes. And now the president's trying to deny that. Oh, well, that's not happening. Look at the crime. Look how much of a shithole this country is. That's the excuse. No, well, crime is bad everywhere. That's psychotic. That is absolutely psychotic, folks. These people are insane in these other countries. Right now we have a president in this country who is actually upholding the law, enforcing our laws. We were lawless for 4 years under the Biden administration. I say lawless, right? If you were a mega Republican, you better watch out. Right, you had to hide because they were coming after you, for goodness sakes. They came after all the January 6ers, even peaceful protesters, for goodness sakes. And now that we are finally back to normality, enforcing our laws equally all the way across the board. Speaking of, by the way, that congresswoman that I was talking about the other day that was shoving and supposedly body slammed, which I never saw a body slam. I would love to see that footage, by the way. I would love for the Trump administration to produce that video. We kind of need to see that. She got charged. This is great. Trump, go after these people. What I find so fascinating about this whole situation with this congresswoman, you go to CNN, you go to MSNBC, CBS, ABC, all these places. They're trying to downplay what happened. Right? It's clear that this lady, right, nobody really got hurt, right? I'm willing to admit that she really didn't hurt anybody. She was pushing and shoving on federal police, on ICE agents, for goodness sakes. Anybody else in the room, any normal citizen doing that, immediately gets arrested. What I find so fascinating about this, folks, is that the Trump administration is saying nobody's above the law. And the elitists over in the corporate press are trying to downplay it, say, well, this is absurd. Nothing happened here. They are sticking up for other elitists in Congress. Imagine that, folks. Who do you believe? That's the question. Who do you believe in this? You saw the video. Now, hey, once again, I'm willing to admit, nobody got hurt. Nobody was going to get hurt from that lady pushing and shoving on people, for goodness sakes. But that's not the issue, is it? It's the principle. You don't push, you don't fight with cops. That's the definition of insurrection. By these same people in the corporate press and in Congress, that's definitionally an insurrection. Why should she not get charged? See how the elites stick up for the elites? That's always going to be the case, folks. But just remember who these elites are. These elites are in the corporate press as well. They are the ones trying to feed you news on a daily basis. So you think that's not going to be biased? Do you think that's going to be all fair and on the up and up? Yeah, I don't think so, folks. I think we need the truth. Honestly, I might be a little bit biased here, but I would take somebody's word for it that's, I don't know, not on CNN, not on CBS, ABC, somebody who cares about the news, who cares about this country, who cares about politics, and reads the news and delivers that news to you. They have no reason to lie. However, the elites, they most certainly have a good reason to lie. They've been doing it for decades, and we know this. But once again, I'm a biased guy. I'm taking up for myself, essentially. But I'm calling it exactly how I see it on this. The elites are taking up for the elites at the expense of you. At your expense. Especially if you're a MAGA Republican. If you went to the Capitol on January 6th, you better watch out. Not anymore, of course. But I'm sorry, look. You take that Congresswoman out of the equation and replace that Congresswoman with anybody else. I'm sorry, that person would have went to jail. Right to jail. Just straight away. There wouldn't have even been a question about it. It wouldn't have been a story. It would have been nothing. And that's not even to mention the ridiculousness of what she was doing. Trying to break into the facility, for goodness sakes. And what I find fascinating is they were actually going to bring her in. They did bring her in while they were trying to transfer deportees and also while a protest was going on. Talk about grace under pressure. I think those ICE agents deserve some sort of commendation or something like that. Some sort of medal, something. But I've been rambling for a good minute, so I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Y'all let me know. If you buy the corporate press narrative, there is no genocide going on over there in Africa. Even though there's really, really ridiculous crime. But hey, you got crime and then you have genocide. There's a fine line between the two, I guess. But y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Sign up, become a member. That would be really, really great. Be an active participant in this thing. Let me know what I can do to make this show a little bit better, because that's what I'm trying to do daily, is improve this thing, get better and better and better and better to deliver the news in a much better fashion, because I know I've still got a good ways to go before I am on the top of my game. So y'all let me know what y'all think about all this. Sign up, share, smash the like, all that goobly gop stuff, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.